This is Garage Ministries Shop Talk, encouraging you to live a better life. All right, today on Shop Talk, I got Shannon Stokes with us. I'm pretty excited about this. Out of everybody, I mean, I've been friends with a lot of the people I've interviewed, and I've known a lot of the people I've interviewed through church and whatnot. But you're probably the closest one of my friends that I've interviewed so far, and it's kind of a milestone. I was telling you the other day, it's kind of a milestone for me because this is my 10th interview, so it's
Big. I'm a celebrity then.
yeah, yeah,
10.
yeah, and I knew the holidays were coming up, and that's why I was like, man, we need to just do this one because I was like, I'd really like you to be at a milestone for me.
Yes.
So, sorry it's so cold here in the shop today, but
It's okay.
yeah,
Cold hands, warm heart.
yeah. um, So I'm just going to start off like I always do, and I know quite a bit about you, but tell us who's Shannon and what do you love to do, hobbies, or what's your favorite thing to do outside of family and church?
Man, I am a husband to Tracy. We've been married for will be 13 years, I think, in January. So we have a son, Finn, and he's 8, and I have two older daughters, Zoe and Ellie. They're 25 and 21, and I'm a grandfather. So Zoe
Oh,
had a baby in
congratulations! Yeah,
August.
oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. I am a chaplain with hospice home care. So I've been in hospice work since 2011. So what is that, like 14 years, 15 years, 14 years? So it'll
Mm,
be 15 years next year. So
yeah,
so I do that. Just visit people in their homes and give them spiritual support in this end of journey part of life. So,
yeah.
um, which is up my alley. I was a full time minister for 14 years as well, in in the Southern Baptist denomination, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, hobbies. Oh man, I play the guitar.
How did that start?
Playing the guitar.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I just kind of picked it up. I saw some guys playing, and my dad had a guitar that was like a silver tone from Sears. I think his mom and dad bought it for him when he was a kid. And I goofed around on it, but I never really learned to play it. So when I got to college, I was like, man, I want to learn to play the guitar. So I found a guy at a secondhand guitar shop just had a guitar, an acoustic for cheap. So I bought it and just started playing. I made friends with a guy named Jason McCall and at college, and he played really well. And so I just hung out with him and played with him a lot. Learned a lot from him. I think I took maybe 2 lessons and decided I can probably learn this on my own. So I playing a lot with people helped me figure that all out. So that's when I started. So I would love to say I'm great at it, but I just enjoy playing. I'm not the best at it, but I like playing. So
Well, I think it kind of you know from time to time we talk about the gifts from God on here, and uh, guitar playing is one of those things either you have it or you don't. I
yeah,
I own a couple guitars and I've tried to play and I have multiple books and
yeah.
it's just not my thing.
Some people it's not. I tried to. I'm not the most patient person in the world, so I tried to teach both my girls, and I couldn't pull that off. And then Finn asked me to teach him the other day, and we sat down for about 5 minutes, and he just was out. So I was like, you, you got to do this, man. You
Yeah,
just gotta sit. So it's hard. It's kind of hard to sit there and when you're a kid too to learn and
yeah,
play. But
yeah,
we go hiking a lot. Like to be in the outdoors, doing that kind of stuff. My wife Tracy's family owns a lot of land that we live on, and we kind of tool around on it, go fishing, things like that. So
yeah. Well, that's great. I know you guys got a little bit of land up there. Is there places to hike and stuff up on the land, or is it just kind of
it's yeah, it's just kind of flat. There's not really we have a couple of ponds up there we go fishing in, but
awesome?
we go hiking to different. We've been to a lot of different waterfalls in Arkansas,
Yeah.
and actually this summer we took a vacation to Kentucky, and hiked at a few different places
Yeah.
and saw some pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah. What was that? What was that you guys went and saw, the underground lake, or what was
Oh
that?
man, the something gorge. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was an underground uh, lake and like a cave. You went on a boat tour. That was there was one that was called the Gorge that we went through that was a little bit more extensive than there was another one that was in uh, man, I can't even think. It's where Western Kentucky University is. Anyway, it was an underground kind of cave too, but it wasn't quite as long.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. So a couple of those were pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds awesome. That sounds really awesome. So, I think about, I think what you do for a living, the hospice thing, I think it's really just an amazing thing. I think that, it's it's another one of those things that takes kind of a special person to do that. And I have a lot of respect for you for doing that. Like I think about it, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that, but, it seems like it was for you, like you take it pretty well. And
Yeah, I think you. I think you have to kind of get over that hurdle of you're dealing with people who are dying,
yeah,
um, because you do get there are some people you get close to and their family, so it's a little more difficult for some people than others if you get really attached to them, and it's always a difficult thing when people are going through that. But I kind of look at it as I'm just trying to help them along this last journey in this person's life,
yeah,
whatever I can do to lend support to them and try to give them some peace. My degree is in social work. That's the degree I got from college, and so I've done that too with hospice. Both hospices that I've been with, I worked with a couple, and you know, I've always kind of brought up the spiritual aspect of things, even when I wasn't a chaplain, just because I think that's important for people to have that down and know, what's going on. And
sorry, I'm out of camera. Just gotta fix it real quick. Go ahead, keep going.
so anyway, just trying to get that kind of settled for people because I feel like part of a person's um, struggle in the end when they're dealing with a lot of times there's a lot of pain and symptoms involved in what people are going through, but I think a lot too for people who don't have a connection with God are going through spiritual difficulties, and that I think that can lead to the pain being exacerbated. So I think the spiritual causes more conflict in their body and kind of can heighten the pain that maybe not
Yeah,
quite as bad. Um, so I always want to make sure I want to make sure they know Jesus, um, if they're open to that discussion. So,
yeah,
and I let them guide that. I'll ask them about that,
yeah,
but yeah, you kind of have to, um, you definitely have to draw boundaries and know when you're getting too emotionally invested, I guess, because
yeah,
you just will wear yourself out and burn out. And that I think that's the biggest thing that happens to people who do hospice work is they just get so drained emotionally because they're not saving lives. The nurses are not there to bring them to life. They're there to bring them comfort for whatever time they have left. So,
man. I can really relate to that because when I talk to a lot of people that are struggling with addiction,
right.
and man, you get really invested in these
Yeah.
people, and you're like, I know you can do this, and you start to you start to see them making a turnaround, and then they fall back, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and it hurts your heart.
Yeah, it's the same type of deal as your emotions just it crushes you because you want so bad for them to change their life
Yeah,
and get away from whatever addiction they have, but
yeah,
then they fall back into it. So it's
yeah.
just it's hard.
It's tough, and it's like people that are counselors and stuff deal with it.
Right. Yeah.
You got to figure out a way put it down at the end of the day because it'll ruin your
You
life.
do.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate to not have that be such a an issue with me.
Yeah.
There's one or two people that I've gotten really attached to. I had a lady that I was her social worker. I wasn't even her chaplain yet. And so I would just she couldn't see, so I read the Bible to her every week. I would go by. So we just I just read from Scripture. I'd read a few chapters of whatever she wanted me to read, and she ended up passing away this past year.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was kind of a void, but I was able to kind of separate myself from that and just know this is the journey she's on,
Yeah.
and it will come to an end. And thankfully, she knew who God was and
Yeah.
walked with Him faithfully, and
Yeah.
I didn't have any, you know, concerns about where she was going for her
Yeah.
eternal self. So
Well, so just in this small portion of our conversation, I mean, everybody knows that you're a man of God, but already, but so did you have a burning bush moment with God, or was God just always kind of part of your life? Let's tell us a little bit about that.
I grew up in a Christian home. My parents both were Christ followers. They accepted Jesus when they were younger. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was actually a pastor, and my dad's parents were both very involved in church, and my grandmother was just such a godly woman, and always had discussions about the Bible and those kind of things. So I was saved when I was 7. Uh, had a crusade. They had crusades back in the day. Some guy would come in your town, and for like a week, the whole town like gathered at our football stadium, and this guy, his name was Moody Adams. I remember that.
Hmm.
He would do crusades. Would come in, very evangelistic and stuff. But one night he had Elvis's stepbrother, Rick Stanley, come by, and it was about a year or maybe a year or so after Elvis had died. He had gotten saved after that and was just going around sharing his story about salvation, how he was actually the guy for Elvis because Elvis, was unfortunately addicted to drugs. He was the person that carried his bag that had all the stuff in it, all
Hmm.
the drugs in it,
Wow.
and he was a stepbrother. But anyway, and he would tell the story that he treated him like a real brother and was very loving to him and giving, and so he was part of his entourage and all that stuff. But he came to Christ after that and was sharing that night. I remember, and one of my dad's good friends, who was kind of our worked with the kids in our church, kind of took me aside and just started talking to me about accepting Christ. And there was something I knew I didn't have in my life that my parents did. So I accepted Christ that night, and at a pretty young age, but grew up in the church. And so, kind of just um, progressed in my journey of faith. And then, God called me to ministry and those kind of things. But I was in ministry full time for 14 years, and I'd done youth ministry and college ministry, and I'd been pastor. And um, along the way, that my last church, I got a divorce, and for me, I think so. So God had been a part of my life from a
Mm.
very young age
Hmm.
when I accepted Christ, but I did have a pretty huge moment because I never thought I would do anything ministry wise again. I thought I'd be a part of a church or whatever, but we have a ministry that was starting in our church called Reengage, which dealt with marriage ministry, and Misty and Lee Lewis lead that, and so they were kind of gathering a group of people that they had identified as people who maybe would be good leaders, and so they were doing a whole telling us about what the ministry would look like and what Reengage was and stuff like that. And my wife and I were there. Tracy and I had gotten married um, in 2013, and so this was maybe it was when Finn was pretty young. I think he was not even a year old, maybe. So 2017 or 18, something like that. Anyway, man, we just felt like this is where God wanted us, and so that was kind of a moment I knew that okay, God can use me again, even after a devastating thing happened in life. Um, God was going to use me again, and He has used us through that. I mean, we were part of that ministry forever. I mean,
Yeah.
and you were in a couple of our
Well,
groups.
and
So.
I was just thinking, and I've never really thought of it that way. I'm sitting here thinking of David, you know,
Hmm.
and him messing up and then coming back to God so many times, and then I was thinking about that ministry and the re-engage ministry, and uh, I think that most people that lead that have had some sort of thing happen in their
Right.
marriage,
Yeah.
and they were able to uh, turn it to the glory of God and
Right.
help other people in their marriage. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think that that ministry in itself is just a testament to how God uses people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
You
there's
know,
some amazing stories about how God has restored marriages and lives, and yeah, and the people, and none of us were perfect or had the perfect marriage, but we were just open to what God wanted to do with us in that deal.
and that ministry through just our church alone. I mean, that ministry is at a bunch of
Yeah.
churches, but
Right.
just through our church alone, that ministry has helped hundreds of
Yeah.
couples.
Absolutely.
So that is
Yeah.
such a fantastic thing.
Yeah. It's a great ministry.
Um, so all that being said, I think it's you telling us a little bit about how you grew up and how you've always been in the ministry. I think that's the thing that intrigues me the most about our relationship is that anybody that watches this on a regular basis knows uh, a little bit about my background addiction
Right.
and being telling people I didn't believe in God
Yeah.
and this and that and you know I think this is a good time to go ahead and tell everybody our first experience of spending any real time together.
Oh man. Yeah, we were at a retreat.
Yeah,
It was
marriage
it was a
retreat.
marriage retreat, and we uh, you were having some difficulties in your marriage at that time. Um, um, just kind of getting into.
I think we fought the whole way
Yeah,
to the marriage
that's what
retreat.
you said.
Yeah.
You guys so when we met you, we were in the same cabin, and you just didn't look very happy to be there. I will be honest. But we hadn't met before then, but we had seen each other because our sons went to the same
Preschool.
preschool,
Yeah.
and so we had not ever talked, but I'd seen you. I was like, man, this guy's familiar. So yeah, but in the course of, yeah, you were. It was probably not the best time for you, but you guys were there trying to work on your relationship, and
It's interesting. I don't know. I just think, uh, uh, in my notes here, I have written down in Christ we can all find common ground, and the reason why I think this is important is because so my co-leader of New Breed does not look like me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Me and you, I did have some church and stuff early on, but I
right,
didn't stick with it. We grew up two totally different
yeah.
ways,
We
and
even talked about that. We went out to eat one time,
yeah,
um, and we were talking about how different
yeah,
our backgrounds are.
yeah.
Um,
But we found this like, uh, I don't know the word commonality or like this common
right,
ground. Now that I mean, you've been in it for a long time, but now that I'm following Christ, we have this thing that we bond over and get excited about.
right.
Especially for me, I'm still learning, so I'm like, man, we get to talk about this amazing thing every time I learn something new from the
Yeah,
Bible, and
and that's been good for me because, like I said, I have been in church for so long, and I think you, as a if you've been a believer for a long time and in church and following Christ, and I've heard all the stories and I've
yeah,
read all the things in the Bible. I know all the big stuff and even small stuff. I can get pretty arrogant and full of myself and think that I know it all, and things don't um, excite me or
right,
come across as, oh man, this is a great thing. But as we've spent time together and talked about Bible stuff that you've read in the Bible in your readings, and you're like, man, I didn't realize this, or how about this, or just being able to talk about that with somebody who didn't have that background, and it's very fresh, and your excitement for it, and the conversations that we've had surrounding God's word has been kind of a rejuvenation for me to
Yeah.
see it doesn't matter how much I know. I even read that today in my um, devotion time. It was Jesus was talking to um, the people in Matthew. I think it's Matthew 11. He was saying, that you don't need to come to God with intellect or anything like that. You need to come as an infant,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you don't come with all the wisdom and all the intellect, because we can intellectualize Christ away, and we can be arrogant in what we know about God when we
Yeah.
come to Him and His Word as a child with that excitement and wonder and reading it, and like you do when we have discussions. It's so refreshing to see this is exciting for people, and I
Yeah.
don't need to downplay it, or it's not like, oh, it's the same story I've heard a thousand times. Even as I was a pastor at one point too, I've even taught about these things or preached about them or whatever. They can get so routine for those of
Mm-hmm.
us who've been in the faith for that long
Yeah.
and living it out. But to be able to see how excited you get, and just learning new things, it's really helped me appreciate my upbringing more, and that I need to be more excited about anything that I'm taught through Scripture, and what
Yeah.
God is teaching me daily. So that's been a really cool thing about our relationship.
Yeah. It's I don't, I've asked for some mentorship from some other people. You have acted as a mentor towards me, but I don't ever want to put that kind of label on our
Right.
relationship, because I don't want to cause any kind of weirdness in our friendship, But yeah, you definitely have mentored me, and I like the fact that um, you're open minded to at least listen to, if I have
Yeah.
a different view on something, you'll listen to me, and I mean, and be honest with me, but you'll still hear me out, and be like, yeah, I see what you're saying, or I don't know if you should go
Right.
that route, and
Yeah.
it's been a really cool learning experience, and it's just fun because I don't really have I hate to say this, but there's not a lot of people that are really trying to understand. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's more than I know. I don't know, but it seems like I don't have a lot of people that I can be like, oh, well, I just started, like, for instance, I started reading in Judges this morning, and we could talk about it, and
Right.
you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not, I can't have that conversation with just anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so that's been really good. Um, so yeah, I think my final thing on that is like, uh, just because somebody looks different than you or comes from a different background, uh, don't don't be prejudiced against that person.
Right.
Because God could have a plan for you.
Oh yeah.
And I've gotten now to where I think the reason why we probably noticed each other in the parking lot at the preschool a year before we ever met, is because God had a plan for us.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Uh, my dentist, Lance Lawrence, he was my dentist for a year or two before I ever got sober and started going to church. And I had this weird draw. I never even talked to the guy,
Yeah.
and I had this weird like attraction to him. Like there's something about this guy. I needed to get to know him better,
Yeah.
And I don't ignore that anymore, because and it something it doesn't something doesn't always come of it, but man, like 90% of the time, if I feel that towards somebody, God has a reason for that relationship,
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you do. It's it. God puts people in your path
Yeah,
uh, for a reason. They're not there for just nothing.
yeah,
God's got a plan for that. Especially if you know, if later on something occurs that makes the relationship happen.
yeah,
Like God was putting that together way before we even had an idea of what it might be.
Yeah, it's stuff like that that makes this whole thing undeniable to me. I mean, the way that my uh being saved, well, there's a long story there, but the way that I was delivered, let's say
Yeah,
that, from my addiction, um, and the way that God has put people in my life, and the way that He has spoke to me through sermons, like, I mean, I used to go to two churches on Sunday.
yeah,
Uh, since the schedule's changed, I can't do that so easily, but I would go to one church that was Pentecostal and then go to the non-denominational church, and they'd both be preaching the same message. I'm like, all right, God, I get it.
yeah.
Like, I need to
I'm
work on that.
listening.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah,
work on that. So something I did want to talk about a little bit was, so everybody's used to Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening. That's kind of the
right.
traditional church. We do something a little different, and some people are gonna be familiar with it, but we do life groups,
Yeah,
which Reengage is considered a life group. What the new breed that I do is considered life group. Uh, but I just want to talk a little bit about how that's kind of different than traditional church, and like what are the benefits to that.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I grew up in church, so we had the Sunday school model where
Yeah,
you would, probably you're probably familiar with that too.
yeah,
A lot of people probably are. You go to you go to Sunday school, and then you go to big church. You go to worship. Is what we always said when I was a kid. Life groups are a little different just because we meet in different times. We're not locked into like the Sunday morning. You got to meet now. Some do, but not many. Um, but I think our life groups kind of are centered around more like unity, community, and discipleship. Um, and I think they're even maybe more intentional than Sunday school is. I think Sunday school is good. I mean, it's a good foundation. It gets people involved, and but if you go to church, that's just kind of your routine. I'm going to go to Sunday school, then I'm going to go to church, go to worship. So our life groups generally meet throughout the week. Most of them meet on Wednesday nights in our church. Um, but I think that's the key for them really is to build community. I think your life group is kind of like your group of people that are going to be there when you have something happen in your life that's tragic, or if you have something going on with your health, you have surgery. Your life group should be there to make a meal for you, check on you. When you're not there, they notice and say, "Hey, they're where have you been?" They ours meet like semesters,
mm-hmm.
spring and fall semesters, and man, there are many of them that are kind of I won't say many. A few are kind of casual to kind
Mm-hmm.
of draw in. I think people who don't go to church,
Yeah.
who wouldn't go to church necessarily to a worship service, but they would go to more of a small group, like yours. I mean, you have some guys in there that probably wouldn't necessarily go to church.
We're actually working on that, but yes, we do have a few guys that consider that
Yeah,
church,
absolutely.
and yeah,
I think it's a good entry point into church. I think our church that we attend, I think life groups are like the life force of our church because it's so big. The campuses and stuff are so big that life groups make it smaller, so you can get to know people better. Um,
I think the interesting thing about the life groups is it draws in people from other churches.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, we've had people in some of the ones that we've led, even the re-engage
the reengage I think is probably a big one.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think more churches are starting to do that in
yeah,
town. So, but yeah, I think it offers a sense of community, not just within your own body of believers, but the church. Everybody. I think one of the focuses I know that we're going to try to have in our life groups is more of a unity amongst the people in the group, community, and then discipleship. I think that's a key thing that I think we're seeing more people hungry for, maybe more just than just a book study on whatever the popular book is, Louis Giglio or Craig Rochelle or whatever. I think those are good. I think they have their place. But I think it's pretty important too to dig into the Word of God.
Yeah,
Just
I really hope that we see more Bible studies.
yeah, I think I mean, I think it's important. I think we are a, a church, a bunch of people who Christians who have gone to church forever, but we don't know our Bibles well. Um,
Well, and I think too, there's people say, I mean, say like you have done Bible study a certain way
right.
forever, and I think somebody that's like say me that's newer is going to bring a different, like kind of like what we
Absolutely.
were talking about, is going to bring a different perspective to it,
Yeah.
and I think that I don't think that there's just one way to study the Bible. You know what I mean?
No.
And
Yeah, I think as long as you are getting truth from that, and you're
yes,
not like,
yes,
if you're reading the Bible and then trying to put your own
right,
ideas into that, that's. But yeah, I think different people bring a different perspective because everybody's in different places in life,
yeah,
and so you get to see. You and I could read the same passage and have two totally different perspectives from it because maybe of what we're going through in life at that time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a good. I think that's a big thing too in our life groups is we get to hear from different people's backgrounds and how they, what's going on in their life and what God is doing in their life. Which, and some people can go, "Hey, yeah, I've been there. I know how that is."
yeah,
You stick with what you're doing. God is going to bring you out of that. Or you can be some people can be an encouragement to others. Other people can ask for help in situations that they may not. I mean, like, hey, man, we're going through this. What do we do? Um,
yeah, and I think too, like you were talking about building community. I mean, that's really, I mean, life group is where our relationship
yeah,
was able to flourish, and some of our other really good friends at church. It it gives you that time together. You may never have built that relationship if it wasn't for the life
right,
group.
yeah,
It's really a different way. Uh, the only thing about life groups that is the break. I never know what to do during the break because I don't know
yeah,
what do we take 6 weeks off or something like that or
yeah. Typically, our life groups go from like September to this. I think tonight is
the last
because we're doing
night.
this on a Wednesday. It's our last
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
So we take those breaks. Yeah, that's kind of a deal too because my wife and I have led a foundations group that kind of deals with make just a basic discipleship for people who are new to their faith or maybe haven't even had a grounding in their faith. So, we do that on the semester too. And so there's a big break there. And in the summer, you're
yeah.
like, what do we do?
I mean, I personally take advantage of that because we talked about being in community with other churches, the church, and I'm really big about trying to break down the barriers between
Right.
denominations and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I do like to take the opportunity to visit other churches
Yeah.
and um, um, just and share what we do, and because I think so many people are worried about like, oh well, they went somewhere else, and they're worried about that, but I want to share what we do at New Life, not to steal congregation, but like, look at what we're doing. Take it back to your church.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's well, just going back to re-engage, that's what some other churches in our community have done now because they've seen the benefit of what that ministry has done for our church.
Yeah.
So they want to bring it to theirs. So I think it is a good thing to be able to, you know, see what's going on at another place because then you may get an idea of, hey, maybe this is something that we could do here, or yeah, we want to share this.
Yeah.
And our church, New Life, is very good about if uh, if another church is struggling in some area or whatever, we're like, hey, we want to help out.
Yeah.
We don't want to. We're not. We don't ever say we're the best church, but we're a church in this area that can.
I hear so many people, and this is really probably the first time I've ever commented on it, but I hear so many people say, man, I think it's really cool how you guys pray for another church every week,
Yeah.
and I guess I've been going there for 4 years now, so I'm like starting to get kind of numb to it. But It is really, it is.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah,
I mean, I've served in churches and I've never been at a church unless there was some sort of major
yeah,
problem with
yeah,
it, you know,
yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that. But you never just, and that
Just like,
I don't think it's a, hey, we don't care about these other churches. But so often churches get in this competition, like, oh man, they've got X number of people. We really got to
yeah,
step up our game, or their kids ministry is really booming. What are we going to
yeah,
do? I think if we start viewing every not as a competition, but we are in community together and we're trying to reach people for Christ. Because I mean, we live in the South. You would think everybody you talk to belongs to a church or has been to a church, but all those people are not in church,
yeah.
or they don't have a relationship with Christ, and that's why they're not actively involved. I think if we just start being the church together and not worry about how many people we've got in the doors and start worrying about how many people know Jesus and find the church that fits you. Now, I'm always going to invite people to New Life because that's my church, and I'm bought into what God is doing there because I see it.
Yeah,
But like, if that's not your place, you
yeah,
need to find a place where God is going to grow you and get involved in whatever they call a life group there,
yeah.
so that you can build that community of faith in
W-
your life.
Well, and we've talked, me and you have talked about, and we've done some bigger, the men's nights and the
Right.
women's nights, and me and you, I told you a little bit about, I want to do like an even bigger
Right.
event that brings multiple churches together, and I think, uh, my vision of that is just people that are non-believers or just not been in church see us putting aside our differences,
Right.
will help grow the kingdom, and uh, maybe having multiple denominations there, they talk to a few people and see what fits them best.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, because I'm at New Life because that's where God wants me to be. That's where I can do. There's a lot of people there that I can help. You
Right.
know, I mean, uh,
Oh yeah. That
I
that
I love Pentecostal worship. You know, it's just
yes.
something that I love, but that's not where God wants me. You know, like
Right.
He wants me doing what I'm doing. You know,
Yeah, I
so
think that's why we were drawn to New Life because we were going to another church in town, and man, we just felt like we kind of were at a point where we were. I mean, and we were serving and doing stuff, and we just were like, man, I just don't feel connected.
hmm
We didn't feel like that. I don't know. We just felt a disconnect from where we were, and so God led us to New Life, and we were immediately like, this is where we're supposed to be. And I think that was like 10 years ago, maybe. So
yeah, they've been with the Russellville campus has been going for like 11 or 12 years
something
now,
like
something
that.
like that. Man, it's I'm kind of introverted. I'm kind of introverted, so it's really kind of out of
That's
my.
hard to
I
believe.
know, I know. It's really out of my comfort zone to be around uh the large groups of people, and speaking in front of a group of people is like, like last night at Newbury we had 32 people,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, like I never saw this coming,
Yeah, and
but
God used you to grow that
yeah,
too,
yeah.
to where it is.
Well, and it's uh my co-leader Shannon Walters, he said it the best. He came up here and we had a conversation the other day, and he said we're getting front row seats to see what God's doing in people.
Yeah.
It's not because you're when you're in a congregation or a group that turns out big. You can get the pride in your head of like, oh, look what I
Oh
did.
yeah. Yeah.
But I don't even know half of these people. I didn't do this. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like I'm getting to watch God work in a bunch of people's lives,
Yeah.
and because our group is people that want to disciple people and people that need to be
Right.
discipled, and for whatever reason they're coming,
That's great.
and man, it's just it's way out of my comfort zone. But the one thing that I've learned through following Christ is obedience. You know, if He puts it on my heart to do something, I need to do it. You know,
Right.
I've never been an obedient person in anything. Like I never respected authority or
Yeah.
uh, you know, uh, I always kind of went against the grain, but for whatever reason, Christ has convinced me of obedience, you know?
Yeah, I think it's in that obedience that you're seeing all of these uh, people coming
Yeah.
to your group, and their lives are being changed. And I mean, I think it's just what God does to you when you finally say, "Not your will, but mine." And you know, I kind of learn that on a daily basis because I often think, well, even before we were in Reengage, like, God, how are you going to use me again?
Yeah.
And it's just being obedient to those. I think it's being obedient to the small things that God will start to use you in mightier ways. And I think because He can use you in the small things, the big things are not going to puff you up or make you
Yeah.
arrogant.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, that's kind of where I got. Even in full time ministry, I was just like, I knew it all, and I had a big group, and I was doing this, and I'm better than that person, and I speak better than them. You know, why wasn't God blessing me in the way that they're blessing them? But I've come to realize that, man, you just arrogant and prideful, and if you would just let God work and not worry about everything else, then He would just you would be obedient at where you were, and then you would be enjoying the blessings of the place you are.
Hmm.
So I think that's where God has me now, is just enjoying the blessings of where I am and what I'm doing and what He's allowed me to be involved in.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen just since I met you, you know, I've seen things changing for you at New Life, you know, just having more opportunities
Yeah,
and all that. So it's great to I don't know. We're just God's just moving right now. I guess that's how
yeah,
you say it. You know, God's
I
just
think you're right.
moving, and I think that we're in a time of revival, and the church is growing. You know, they just had the 12:45. Is that right?
So
12:30.
30.
12:30 service.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a third service now at 12:30.
Right.
Um, the first and second service are pretty much always full.
Yeah.
Um, we do events and hundreds of people show up.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I think we had like 50 something people baptized, and
oh yeah.
people coming to Christ,
Every
and
it seems like every 2 months
yeah,
or two. I don't know how it's 2 or 3 months they do it, and it's always 50 people,
yeah,
60 people.
it's a lot.
Uh, both of our sons just
Yeah,
got baptized.
that is right.
You know,
They
just in
did.
the last few months, and uh, man, I didn't. My son was like, no, no, no. You know, and then I think obviously your son going first kind of gave
Right.
him some
Yeah.
encouragement, but I said, don't do it just because your friend did it, you know, and don't, you know, and we really explained to him it's, you know, you're showing people that you love Jesus, and you need to start working on your relationship with Jesus, praying more, and he's
Right.
been he doesn't read all the time, but you know, there are times he picks up his Bible and starts reading, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's
wow, you
awesome.
know, that's like amazing, and yeah, I don't know, God's just really moving. So,
Yeah. That's awesome.
um, so um, the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which we've kind of hit on it a little bit, but I just really wanted to talk about like the importance of Bible study. I mean, I think kind of the basics of that is it's growing your relationship with
Yeah.
God. You know, I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit of that, but something that was really brought to my attention, you know, I was in a Bible study of the book of John this semester. That was my life group this semester. And I had my study Bible with me. And we are talking about the woman at the well. And I've talked to you a little bit about
Yeah.
this. I'm reading, everybody's talking about the woman at the well, and I'm thinking about how that story is about her not living right, but, you know, she can turn it around and this and that, the life that she lived and all that. And then I see the commentary of, well, normally the Jews would have taken a 6 day journey around Samaria,
Right.
right? Is that how you say it?
Samaria. Samaria.
Samaria. Uh, because they didn't get along with the
Right.
Samaritans. But Jesus, in his obedience to the Father, knew that he had that appointment with that woman and had to go through
Right.
to have that appointment that God put on
Yeah, because
Jesus's
it even
heart.
says in there that he had to go
Yes,
to Samaria.
he had to. Yeah,
It wasn't like he just stopped off on the way to
yeah,
get a drink.
yeah, right. And so that story is about um, her not living right, and it is about
Yeah,
don't sin, and it is about that, but it's also about obedience.
yeah,
And that deeper. I mean, I'm sure there's probably 1,000 other instances in the Bible that are similar to that, but
yeah.
having that deeper understanding of, well, it kind of goes along with your, what is it, Forgotten Jesus?
Yes, the forgotten Jesus,
Uh, Robbie Gallaty's Forgotten
Robbie
Jesus.
Gallaty.
Yeah. Knowing the culture, knowing what was really going on
Yeah,
can give you a different perspective of a story that you thought you already knew.
yeah. That whole forgotten Jesus is a book that he wrote. Robbie Gallaty. He's a pastor at Long Hollow Church in Tennessee. Wrote a book about it, and they do a podcast about it also called The Forgotten Jesus. But he really digs into the first century Jewish mindset, like you
Yeah.
said, knowing the audience that John was written to, and the culture that Jesus lived in, because we always think it with our mindset
Right.
of the white, blue eyed, blonde haired Jesus that we've captured in movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
We don't ever see the culture and what a big deal that particular story was, or that event in the life of Christ was, that he had to go there because he was being obedient to the Father, because he had to go and speak to this woman that he wouldn't have ordinarily. Yeah, the Jewish people didn't hated, probably was not even the strongest word to use for Samaritans, because of some things that happened in the Old Testament. Um, you know,
Right. Yeah.
uh, and that's why all of that was happening. And then she was a woman, so women were not seen as anything in that culture. And she had the background that she did, so that's why she was at the well at noon instead of in the morning. All of
With the other, yeah, she
Yeah, with the
wasn't
other
with
women.
she wasn't even welcome with the other
No,
women because of her
and
background.
I
Yeah.
even read, like you were talking about commentary. I even read a commentary on that one time that may not even have been a well that was close to her town that she lived in. It may have been another town over, just so she could distance herself that much farther
Yeah.
from it.
People
So,
wouldn't recognize her or
right.
whatever.
So yeah, knowing all of those things kind of deepens your appreciation and love for what that story really means.
Yeah.
And there's so much other stuff that you can go into in that story with,
Yeah.
or that account in the life of Christ with that woman, that goes deeper than just she was living in sin and he was there to show her who the Messiah was. Now, and he had just talked to Nicodemus, a Pharisee, the leader of a head leader in the religious
Yeah.
order of that day in chapter 3. So in chapter 4, he's talking to this woman and he reveals himself as the Messiah.
Yeah.
And so all of that is important. And that's what makes studying the Bible important. You
Yeah.
can't just, man, read a verse and go, oh, that was great for my life. I think it's important to get something out of it, but you've got to know what's going on around it.
Yeah.
That's why digging. That's why I think we're so literate as a society, but illiterate in the Bible, because we read stuff and we don't think about it. And a lot of people, we like the New Testament because we understand it
Yeah.
more.
It's a little easier. Yeah.
The Old Testament a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of stuff we don't understand, but you can't understand all of the New Testament if you don't know the Old Testament. That's what brings a lot of it to life, and that's what's done it for me over the last few years, is just digging into God's word and trying to understand really what's going on. And when you start doing that kind of thing, you start understanding the culture, and going back to the Old Testament when you're in the New Testament, and looking at things, and even looking at in the Old Testament, looking at the prophecies that are being fulfilled in the New Testament in Christ, and you're like, wow, this comes alive in my life. This really does matter. This makes a difference. These aren't just words written by some random people. This
Yeah.
was this was all woven together by God from Genesis to Revelation is the story. I mean, we start in the garden, and we're going to end up, I think, back in paradise
Yeah.
again, being restored because God. That's the arc of the whole Bible is a
Yeah.
restoration
The
story.
new earth.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just
Oh
it's
yeah,
huge.
restoration. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I've tried to articulate my thoughts on this, but I'm not quite there yet. I've even talked about it in a previous video, but I just can't quite get it out yet. But something about the Old Testament, like I said, I just started Judges. I'm going
Hmm.
through the Old Testament really slow. It's not like the New Testament was like a easy read. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yeah.
But the Old Testament, I've been going through it really slow, and I'm studying other stuff at the same time, man. And I just get distracted and I don't study like
Right.
I should. I mean, just to be completely honest. But the Old Testament is like showing me things that are making me understand my thought process.
Yeah.
It's like making me understand why I get upset about certain things. And, because God gets upset
Right.
even in the Old Testament. It shows his jealousy and his anger
Right.
and I'm like, man, I have that same emotion sometimes over similar things,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? But then you look at the New Testament. I mean, they just so much go hand in hand. You look at the New Testament and you're like, well, it doesn't all work without the compassion and love of Jesus.
Right.
If you were just angry and jealous all the time, it would be a miserable life.
Yeah.
You got to have those two elements to make life work,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not doing any of that any justice, but it's definitely uh, they go hand in hand,
Yeah.
and like you said, like um, Deuteronomy reminded me. There was a lot of stuff in Deuteronomy that kind of reminded me of the gospel a little bit. Um, and then there's what did they? Who was it they sold for silver? Is
Oh, Joseph, they did.
Joseph sold, and it was like it just was felt
Yeah, there's
so.
so many connections
Yeah,
that you see.
yeah,
All the and the numbers 40 years, in the wilderness, and then Jesus is 40 days in the wilderness with
yeah.
being tempted, and
Well, the number 7, the number 12,
yeah, so
you
many
know,
connections.
so many connections, and then something I haven't really studied this too much yet, but I always butcher everything. I don't have it memorized. So, Proverbs, is it Proverbs 22? Is that right? Is the um like the prophecy of Jesus?
Psalm 22.
Psalms 22. I'm
Yes.
sorry. So Jesus says on the cross, he says, why have you forsaken me? And a lot of people say, well, why would God do that? And it's like, really, I didn't know this. Really, what he's doing is pointing back to that that
Yeah.
chapter, and then you read that chapter, and it's like, wow, this is saying everything that the New Testament
Yeah.
says, everything that the crucifixion says.
Somebody, I was, my wife and I were talking about that, Jesus being on the cross and him saying, because a lot of people say God turned his back on Jesus on the cross because he was taking on the sins of the world and God can't look at sin. And,
Yeah,
I don't know how everybody feels about that, but I'm like, just thinking about it, because I mean, I haven't ever fleshed that all out, but I'm like, God continued to love Israel despite the fact that they continued to sin. So he never really turned his back on them. Now his presence left the temple in the Old Testament because he was like, at one point he was like, I'm done with you guys. You guys are, there's a new plan coming, but right now I'm leaving. So when you say that, yeah, a lot of people think, well, my God, why have you forsaken me? Well, God didn't forsake him. He was being obedient to the cross to
mm-hmm.
die, and he was calling back, hey, the Old Testament, all these things that you religious leaders are supposed to have memorized and know now, I'm bringing this back up to you to let you know that I am the Messiah.
Yeah. I think about that. I'm like, how could every Pharisee within earshot should have in that moment been
Yeah.
convicted.
Every Jewish boy
Yeah,
grew up learning all that stuff.
you're right. Should have been like,
Everybody would have
oh,
been like, "Oh man, yeah, we
he
know
is
that."
the Messiah. Like,
Yeah,
should have known in that moment.
right.
You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Good
But
stuff, though. Yeah, that's why that exactly why Bible study is important. Not just reading it. Reading it is important because that's how you build a relationship with God.
right,
But when you dig into it and study it, man, it just comes alive in your life, and it gives you a hunger to read it more,
was
and it builds that more
yes,
intimacy.
yes, and and for me, the way it started, and I think people that come from similar background to me, I mean, some people will tell you what the Bible says, like you should do this and you should do that. That's not my style. My thing is like, you should read the Bible and see what. Now, if somebody wants to have a conversation, whether or not I think they should get drunk every day, I will tell you how I feel about it.
Right,
You know, um, but I try not to see where somebody's failing and bring it up. That's
right.
just not my. That's just not my style because I'm not going to. Uh, I'm not the one that's going to save you. You
No,
know what I
yeah,
mean? You know what I mean? Like, I could tell you my testimony, I could tell you what God did for me, and I could tell you that I think you should read the Bible and see what it says about your problem. You know, but like you said, that you start to learn. You read the gospel. We talk about. I think anybody that hasn't heard this, I think you should start in John and read Acts and Romans, and if that doesn't get you hooked, I don't know what will.
right.
You know. Uh, but if you read those three books and apply that to your life's about to get better. And I had somebody kind of disagree with me on that topic, but I didn't know what to say. But I wish I would have thought of this in the moment. You think about Job, and yeah, his life was bad. But how much worse would it have been if he would have been resentful?
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Not only would he had the problems that he had, but he would also be living in resentfulness. So he would have been having more
right.
depression and more anxiety. And so, yeah, his life was still bad, but loving God made his life better. I promise you it
Yeah.
did, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's true for anybody,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think you're right. I think you can't walk if you walk away from God's word and you haven't even if you don't say yes to Jesus in that moment, there if you just read the Bible for merely a way to live your life,
Yes.
it's going to be better.
Yes.
But following Christ in that will just elevate it to levels you would never believe.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean you're going to life is going to be perfect.
No.
It
Doesn't,
never says that in there.
yeah.
I mean, we're called to suffer for Christ. We're not
Yeah.
called to
Yeah.
party for Christ all our life.
Yeah. I think that if somebody, I mean, I have had moments of being monetarily blessed that I know come from God. But if you follow God thinking that you're going to get rich or something like that,
Yeah,
you have another thing coming.
not going
That
to happen.
you, I
You
think
may get
you
rich,
may
but
if you're,
that's not your
you know,
ultimate goal.
no.
Your ultimate goal is just to whatever you have living your life is to be lived for
Well,
Christ.
I think my idea of successfulness has changed.
Yeah.
Like my family life has gotten better. Um, I've led a couple people to learn who Jesus is. Um, or hell, I don't, I'm uncomfortable about that topic, but I've like shown people what he did for me, and
Right.
they've found him through my testimony. Um, I'm getting to see amazing things happen,
Yeah.
and um, I just don't have the. I mean, yeah, you got to pay bills and you want to be comfortable and stuff, but I just don't have the drive to chase money anymore because I have way more important, bigger, cooler things happening in my
Right.
life,
Yeah.
happening around me and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
That's fantastic.
yeah, it just changes. I mean,
Yeah.
it just changed me, like, uh, I've heard people talk about, there's some people that are like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm saved or not. I'm like, I'm a different person
Yeah.
than I was 4 years ago. Even like
Yeah,
when,
you are. You are
yeah,
a different
yeah,
person.
no, I mean, even when I first started following Christ till now,
Your countenance, your face is different. Like
yeah,
you, the way that you, just the way that you look,
right,
like you can see there's not a weight
right,
on you. There's a
yeah,
joy in your heart, even when maybe the day isn't great.
yeah,
There's still that in your heart. I can see that from the first time I even saw you at
yeah,
picking your son up at daycare. I'm like, I hope I don't mess with this guy, you
yeah.
know.
That's what my wife was like. People are scared of you. I was like, why? Why? Man, I had a moment, and I don't even remember exactly what brought it on, but I had a moment that uh, I felt it come off my heart.
Yeah,
I mean, like literally, it felt like what I compared it to was the story of the stone being rolled away from the tomb.
yeah.
It was like that's how my heart was opened up. It was like I
Wow.
had this.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a heaviness in my chest. That
Right.
rolled away, and I don't. I mean, I can't explain that,
Yeah.
dude. It's so weird.
There's so many people that have that experience with Christ,
Yeah,
and mine has been different because I was saved at an early age, so I've just
yeah,
lived with that peace. So I've never had that. There have been times that have been difficult, but I've always had that sense of God is with me, and I'm going to make it through this, even though it
yeah,
doesn't feel like it,
yeah,
just because of my background and things. So I've had that peace
yeah.
because I've often, as I've grown up, I've often thought, you know, have I had that experience? But it hasn't been uh, that earth shattering. I feel like I think when you get older and you get saved, it's like, oh man, I'm released. I'm free to live a life for Christ, and I'm not bound by any of this stuff. I was fortunate that I never had that issue with a lot of things, so I had that peace
The
going that I lived with.
Yeah, the devil tricks you. Like when you're living that negative, when he gets you in that trap
Yeah,
and has you hemmed up in that trap for a long time, and that becomes your identity. Um, it's hard to escape from that.
right,
Like, and addiction, sexual immorality, uh, any of I mean, those are the things I'm familiar with.
right,
Gambling, gluttony. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and
right.
on. But man, when he has you convinced that that's your identity, it is hard to escape. And I want people to escape that, but I gotta remember when I was there. It was
Right.
like, I mean, I lived in it for 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 30 years. So, and yeah, it's not like a small thing. It's hard to get away from.
Yeah.
And I guess the Bible tells us that not a lot of people are going to break free of it,
Right.
really,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, well, I just got one more question and we can kind of discuss it. And this is my big thing that I love to ask everybody is if there's one thing that you could say to the men out there, any advice or just one thing you think the men out there need to hear.
Oh man. I think I mean first and foremost, give your life to Christ. And as a result of that, live out the convictions that he gives you. I think there are a lot of times in life when I did not do that I look back on, and that's when I have the most regret, maybe, or man, I wish I would have moved on my conviction in that area. Whether that is sharing Christ with people or standing up when nobody else is, making the right decisions. I'm talking about when you're a young cat, you know, uh, all of those things. I think if you follow Christ, you need to live out those convictions in your life, um, because those will shape who you become later in life, and it will be when you live out when you start living those convictions out, it gets easier and easier to to live them out. It
Mm-hmm.
gets easier to say yes to Jesus and no to whatever the world has to offer you.
You're practicing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice, man. Just live out the convictions that Christ gives you and step into that, whatever that may look like in your life. New jobs, shedding some friends, maybe even, you know, breaking off a relationship with somebody you think you're going to spend your life with, but you've seen that that's not the right place to be. Um, and those are not easy things to do, but if God is convicting you of it, there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to step into, not to shy away from, not to say, I don't know if this is right or not. If you feel it, if it's impressed in your life, God has it there for a reason, and you need to step into that and just live it out. Stand up, stand firm in that, um, because you will be blessed by it. But that is the path that God has for you in life. That's where He wants you to be. So that's what I would say.
Man, I feel so fortunate. I always get the best advice on this show. Everybody's always got good advice. So that was another great one. I've really enjoyed talking with you today, and
Yeah, man, it's been good.
I feel like I got to know you even a little bit better today. And was there anything that I missed or that we need to go over? Or
And I think we hit it
we hit it
all.
pretty good, huh? Yeah, yeah. All right.
It feels
Well,
like we just had a conversation over dinner and we just stuck the mics
yeah.
in our
That,
face.
that's what I try. That's how I try to do it. It always
So
starts off a little like, oh, I'm on video,
yeah,
but yeah, I try to get it to where these are the conversations we have.
that's right. They
Yep.
are.
So
They're real.
so all right. Well, if you've followed this long and you're still here, please subscribe and like and share and do all the things that you can do on social media to get this to get the things that we're talking about out there. I think that there's people that need to hear it, and like I said, I think God's moving, and I'm just happy to be a part of this and doing what we're doing. And like I always say here at Garage Ministries, we're just trying to help you live a little bit better life.